Sheila had always been a giver. From childhood, she took warmth, smiles, laughter, small victories, and shared them out in generous slices to anyone who asked. At school, she tutored struggling classmates until her own homework sat unfinished. In college, she juggled 3 part-time jobs to cover her roommates' shortfalls. And in her first job, she stayed late every night, carrying everyone's burdens on her back, until the office lights dimmed and her spirit flickered. Yet every ember of goodwill she offered carried a cost. Every time she warmed another's hands with the fire of her effort, her own fingertips grew singed, the skin peeling away until she scarcely recognized the person staring back in the mirror. Chapter 1: The Candle That Would Never Quit. Sheila saw herself as a candle. She believed her purpose was to burn, persistently, steadily, until everyone around her basked in comfort. At 27, she worked as a behavioral therapist in a bustling children's clinic. Her days began before sunrise, driving across town to volunteer at a shelter. She'd slip into the clinic at 8, greet each child with a hug, then stay so late that the cleaning crew would mutter, "Are you even human?" Her friends worried. "You're exhausted," they'd say. "Why don't you take a break?" But Sheila would only laugh, shrugging off their concern. "I'm fine," she insisted. "Someone has to do it." Except, she wasn't fine. Inside, she felt hollow, as if her own flame was sputtering on fumes. She drank coffee like water, kept her eyes glued to her phone for urgent messages, and skipped family dinners because there wasn't enough time. She convinced herself that her sacrifice was noble. After all, what was a little pain if it meant others were warm? One evening, after a particularly grueling day, she caught a glimpse of herself in the clinic's glass door. Her hair was a tangled veil, dark circles lay under her eyes like 2 inky bruises. She looked small, fragile, and for the first time, she wondered, who would light my candle when mine burned out? Chapter 2: The Warning Sparks. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind flicked through the day's events, a child's tears she couldn't calm, a coworker's complaint she stayed late to smooth over, an email she drafted at midnight. She realized she'd spent the last 16 hours soothing everyone else's pain but her own. At dawn, she found herself on the roof of her apartment building, the city stretching below in a web of lights. She wrapped her arms around her knees and stared at the sky. A gray cloud drifted across the rising sun, and in that fleeting shadow, she felt the weight of her exhaustion. Trembling, she whispered to the empty air, "I can't keep doing this." It felt like admitting defeat. She'd always taken pride in her ability to endure. But now a new realization burned in her chest: you can't help others if you're collapsing. Chapter 3: The Quiet Flame. Sheila started small. She refused to answer non-urgent emails after 6. She traded one night a week at the shelter for a cooking class she'd always wanted to try. She said no more often, first to a coworker's request for overtime, then to a friend who asked her to plan a party she didn't have energy for. Each no sparked a twinge of guilt. She'd been taught that saying no meant letting someone down. But with each polite refusal, she discovered something she'd forgotten: her warm, steady glow did not depend on sacrificing herself entirely. She met Luis at the cooking class. He was a quiet man with gentle eyes and quick hands. Together, they chopped onions into perfect dices and watched dough rise under glass bowls. Luis never asked her to cancel other commitments. He simply asked if she'd like to try the new French bakery down the street. For the first time in years, Sheila spent a weekend afternoon doing nothing more profound than sipping espresso. She basked in the warmth she allowed herself to receive. Chapter 4: The Inferno of Overgiving. But old habits die hard. A week before Christmas, the clinic's director asked Sheila to cover 3 therapists who were on leave. It was an avalanche of extra hours. At first, she said no, remembering the promise she made to herself on that rooftop. But then guilt crept in. The children would miss out. Her colleagues would drown. She'd be letting everyone down. So she signed on. She willingly set her candle against the wind, determined to burn brighter than ever. For 2 weeks, she lived on adrenaline, mornings in the shelter, days in the clinic, nights preparing therapy plans. Her phone rang constantly, requests, emergencies, just a quick favor. On Christmas Eve, she found herself alone in the clinic's empty lobby at 11 p.m. The last child had been picked up hours ago. The halls, once filled with laughter, were silent. Sheila sank into a chair, her head in her hands. For a moment, she felt like she might disappear altogether. A janitor named Rosa found her there. "Mija," Rosa said, using the affectionate Spanish for my daughter, "go home. Let it wait till morning." Sheila blinked. Home. The word felt foreign. She'd spent so many nights here that the clinic had become her sanctuary, and her prison. "Go," Rosa insisted. "Your candle needs rest, too." Slowly, Sheila stood. She flicked off the lights and walked out into the crisp air. The city's Christmas lights twinkled like distant stars. She realized then how hollow she felt. The warmth she once derived from giving had become a scorching drought. Chapter 5: The Art of Sparing Kindling. In the weeks that followed, Sheila confronted a simple truth: generosity is not measured by self-immolation. She read books on self-care, attended a few therapy sessions herself, and practiced mindfulness. She learned that to keep a candle burning, you sometimes need to cover it from gusts, not fuel it until it consumes itself. She began delegating at work, something she'd always resisted. She mentored junior therapists, giving them responsibility and trusting them to shine. She set clear boundaries: no more impromptu evening shifts. Instead, she used evenings to rest, to read, to laugh with Luis, to simply be. One morning, a child arrived at the clinic carrying a paper lantern she'd made. "This is for you, Miss Sheila," the little girl said shyly. "It's so you never forget how bright you are." Sheila held the lantern up to the window, its yellow star fluttering in the winter air. In that moment, she understood: true warmth doesn't come from burning yourself away until only ashes remain. It comes from sustaining a gentle flame that, with care, can endure. Chapter 6: A Flame for the Future. A year later, Sheila stood on that same rooftop where she'd once feared her light would extinguish. The city spread below in morning gold. In her pocket was the yellow lantern, faded but intact. Next to her stood Luis, her partner in both adventure and rest. Sheila closed her eyes and inhaled the cool breeze. She thought of the children she still helped, the friends she still supported, and the new lives she had changed, yes, but without losing herself in the process. She had learned to keep her flame sheltered, to nourish it with sleep, laughter, and boundaries. Opening her eyes, she turned to Luis. "I'm ready," she said. "Ready to keep shining, wisely, kindly, and steadily." He smiled and took her hand. Below them, the world woke. And in that moment, Sheila realized she had become a living example of the lesson she had fought so hard to learn: you can be a beacon without burning yourself out. You can warm the people you love without letting them take the fire from you. And in that gentle, unwavering light, they all found a comfort that would never fade. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Don't Give Up. Let's continue exploring life's challenges and insights together.